Hey, this is Jasmine. Have you ever wanted to know what is the latest and greatest of businesses, entrepreneurs, musicians, and artists around the world? Have you ever wondered, why did they make that choice, where they're going, and how can I support them? Well, you come to the right place. If you haven't heard already, I have some amazing guests all the way from Africa and as close as Texas, where I live. Check out Noise Zion podcast on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and 30 plus other platforms. Today's guest is Rowena Winkler, organizer of Journey2Consciousness, LLC. She has integrated her background in theater and writing into a coaching business. She'd like to discuss the magic of multi-hyphenate, the lessons learned once she decided she finally let go of the compartmentalization of gifts and talents, and just live as an authentic self. Give a warm welcome to ever-blessed Rowena Winkler.
Hi, how are you, Jasmine?
Oh, good. How are you? You are a wound thread of information. Just it's so informative. Very nice today.
You're so thoughtful. Thank you. I received that.
Okay.
I'm feeling my badass goddess glow vibes today.
There you go. But I wanted to thank you and welcome. Can you tell me specifically your title and what do you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Rowena Winkler, and I am a cosmic catalyst coach and realignment strategist. So what that exactly means is that I help women who are feeling stuck and are motivated by spiritual modalities such as astrology, human design, tarot, crystals, et cetera. And I use those modalities to help these women activate their divine essence, that goddess energy, so that they can step into their full power and meet their soul purpose. And it is the integration of my experiences as a woman, as a former professor, and I'm sure we'll get into that, and just the joy that I found in mentoring, in teaching, in writing. And it stemmed from a friend, actually, because last year in 2020, I launched an astrology business where I was doing readings because I've studied astrology. I've always been interested in it. I was that friend at parties where people would be like, Rowena, what does this mean? XYZ. And I would tell them. And finally I said, you know what, maybe I should do this and build a business and get paid for it. And a friend of mine who I read her chart, she said to me, you know what, Rowena, I can really see you integrating this into a coaching offering and using your gifts and talents as a teacher, as a former professor to do this in this business. And I said, and I tucked that away in the back of my mind. And fast forward to the end of 2020, and I found myself with the astrology business, just getting burnt out and overwhelmed by the constant content grind. You know, as you're starting a business, I am a marketing professional in my day job, in my 9-to-5 job, but it was just too much. And so I took a bit of a pause, a bit of a break, and thought about, okay, what am I really wanting to accomplish here? What do I really want to do with this practice? And in that time, I talked to another fellow coach friend, Joanna Platt. She's amazing. You should look her up. And we dug deep to find my zone of genius. And it really is helping people find their voice through all these different means. And so I ran with that. And I embraced my magical multi-hyphenate self because I have so much to offer. And I channeled it into this coaching offering because I found that I shouldn't compartmentalize myself. You know, I shouldn't just be Dr. Rowena, professor, Dr. Rowena, mom, you know, Dr. Rowena, marketing professional. These are all me and all sides of me. And as a creative, a singer, I infused all of this into this coaching business, and I haven't looked back since. And it's been so amazing. And it's brought me to folks like you, where I can talk about this work that I'm doing.
Oh, for sure. And like you mentioned, you are just like a glowing queen of inspiration. You have, I feel like I just want to say that I have someone who's aligned in wanting to become the better you, the better for yourself, better for all. And it's just like, I glow with pride and just commend all the things that you are able to even to see another woman going through and finding that their goal and their destiny and their future is so, it's just so inspiring for others. I'm just, I guess I'm saying I'm speechless because I'm like, I don't even know what else to say.
Well, I really appreciate that.
And I do, I see you and I appreciate you. And this is just amazing because I feel like these questions are going to just be like, they're not even going to touch the surface in regards to what you can do. So, the fact of the matter is I've not always been this glowing ball of inspiration, right? I definitely want to make it very clear that it's been a lot of, there have been dark moments, there have been dark nights of the soul, essentially, where I had to sit down and dig in deep and get really introspective about who I am and who I want to be and what I want. And that did not come easily. There have been challenging times, but I'm here to tell you and your listeners that you can come out the other side stronger than ever and that it's possible. Yeah, it is very true. And, you just mentioned that you are first generation and your background as a Filipino, or I just want to make sure I say this
Filipina. Right. Yeah, Filipina. Yeah.
Okay.
Filipinx.
So you do the same thing as Latinx. Well, I can never really catch on to that Latinx part, but I always consider myself Latina. So it's
Filipina is fine.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So tell me a little bit more about yourself and your, like, where did you grow up? And tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah, sure. So I am first generation American. So I was born in the United States. I was born in Philadelphia, but grew up in southern New Jersey. My parents came to the United States from the Philippines. They met here, though. They met in the United States, I believe, at a mutual friend's party. And they got married and they had my older sister and then they had me. And as I'm sure you may or others may resonate, being an immigrant child is definitely an experience in and of itself, right? So my parents worked hard to provide this life for my sister and I, and we are so very grateful. But I will say there was a lot of pressure to perform academically, especially professionally, to do well in all the things. And so it instilled this perfectionism in me where, especially academically, I have a PhD. I was able to get my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate in less than 10 years because I just hustled and grinded and I was very self-motivated. I was one of those students, those young people that would come home from school, from high school, and immediately go straight to doing my homework. I wrote papers 2 weeks in advance in college. It was bananas. Wow. And I had a lot of awards and a lot of achievements. I was in the top, 5%. I think I was number 4 ranked in my high school class, right? So there was a lot of expectations I felt from my parents in particular, because in Filipino culture, especially, our parents talk to other parents, their friends, about their children, right? So they say, oh, my daughter is this, my daughter is that. And I was very self-aware about that. But it got to the point where the perfectionism wasn't working for me anymore. And it wasn't until I got my first tenure track position, right? So 2013, I got my PhD. I'm in my first tenure track job, and it just wasn't what I had anticipated. I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. I was dealing with health issues. I was dealing with mental health issues because I was just so stressed and so overwhelmed, overworked. Additionally, you mentioned BIPOC folks. I felt that as a faculty woman of color, there was additional invisible labor that was put on me as a faculty member where I had to be this token person of color for the university while they were going about doing these programs and checking off these boxes that to me felt very cosmetic, right? It just felt like, okay, here's the Band-Aid, boop. But it wasn't digging in deep enough as to the root cause, the structural issues that a lot of organizations and entities, not just universities, were still dealing and grappling with and trying to figure out how we can serve communities of color. And so here I am as this faculty member watching my students marching in the streets for Black Lives Matter. And I just felt I wasn't able to pour as much as I wanted to into these causes. And so with all that, and additionally, my father passed away from cancer. He was only 67 years old. And thank you. I'm sure folks can attest, right? When you lose someone so close to you, especially a parent, I'm only 35. And back then I was only in my 20s, mid to late 20s, and losing my dad, who was such a huge supporter. He was you mentioned that I'm this ball of light. Well, I get that from my dad. He was so funny. He's a Leo, so he was just so vibrant, and losing him really changed. It was a game changer. It really shifted my perspective on what the heck I was doing here, right? I asked all these questions. What is my legacy? What do I want to leave here? And I realized that academia and staying in the institution was not it. And despite all the hard work, all the accolades, I was considered a quote unquote rock star in my department when I was a grad student and when I was a faculty member. I walked away from all of that. And it was not easy. It was very difficult because I grew up with my parents expecting so much of me. I did grow up with this people-pleasing mentality. And so I felt like when I left academia that I was letting people down, that I was a failure, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't hacking it in that space.
Yeah.
I'm today saying that it was probably one of the best decisions that I had ever made.
It's just amazing what you had to go through. And it just feels like, do you think like right now, does it feel like that was like a lifetime ago in regards to all the things that you've done? And it just feels like there was someone who was completely different. Like, who is that person? Compared to what you are now, it's just, what is the most courageous thing you've ever done?
Yeah, I think the most courageous thing I'd ever done was leave academia, because if you have ever gone to grad school and if you've ever gotten a PhD, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I've heard it.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it for y'all. It is a huge investment of time, energy, brain power. It's a lot. I was a broke grad student for a long time and it sucked, and to feel like at that moment that I was walking away from it. But now knowing that you can never take my PhD away from me. I'm always Dr. Rowena Winkler, right? I will always have my degree. But at the time, feeling like, oh no, I've worked so hard for this, and now I'm leaving it all behind because I'm not feeling good with it or whatever. It was really, really difficult. It took months of really thoughtful thinking, of therapy, of going to my tribe. Thankfully, I did have amazing friends and mentors at the university who got it, who understood where I was coming from. My wonderful PhD advisor from the University of Maryland, where I got my PhD, Dr. Linda Aldori, going to give her a shout out. She has always been so supportive of all of my endeavors. So knowing that I had a tribe, I had people who would be okay even if I wasn't okay, made it okay.
It's good to have that village. Believe me. Yeah, that is awesome. And then, like you said, probably had to go and do some self-reflection, self-awareness, and after that, taking that leap. But when you're at that point where you have to think like, screw it, and walk away from it, when a woman's mind is made up, it's made up. So yeah, exactly right.
That's right. Those are my snaps, y'all. Those are my snaps.
Rolling of the neck, you know. So that is wonderful. And a lot of people don't think about it, but I think we don't say it out loud, is that I would never have met you if we didn't have our paths would not cross if you decided to continue with what you're doing. And 1000%, girl, what you're doing now is the right path for you. Even though we don't think about it, our path is already set that way. Even though we keep trying to find a way to turn around and say, you know what, I can't go that way. I can't go that way. In the end, you still go right back to the same path that you were destined to go to. So what inspired you? Because I think you even mentioned it about your friend. What inspired you to venture into this career path?
Yeah, so I did mention my friend when I talked about what I do and my work, but I will say I mentioned how I put my astrology business on hold. Finally, eventually motivated me to pivot and rebrand and launch RowenaWinkler.com was the birth of my beautiful baby daughter. Here's another challenge. I'm actually an IVF mom. So I went through in vitro fertilization to have her. My husband and I were trying to get pregnant for almost 2 years and no luck. And so thankfully, technology and science is awesome. And I was able to get pregnant with the first try with IVF. And so my amazing, beautiful pandemic baby, she was born 19 days early, literally right before the world shut down due to COVID-19. So I call her like, she's our pandemic timer. So she, I had her and then we all went in lockdown. And so goodness to gracious.
Yeah.
It was so difficult trying to figure out how to be a mom. And especially since my husband, Derek, and I were such extroverts, right? So we have our communities. As I mentioned, we're so fortunate to have so many friends, but because of the virus, because of COVID, we had to stay home. And so we had to figure out how to do this without that community, which was difficult, but we had each other. And as my therapist calls it, I share this everywhere. She called COVID-19 a collective retreat. So
you can call it collective something.
Yeah, it was a way for us to chill with ourselves.
Yeah.
Jasmine, before COVID, Derek and I, before we had this baby, we were those people that we would have 3 to 4 things to go to in a day, right? We go from bop, 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 we go bopping around and we have all these plans and we're doing all these things. And COVID forced us to slow down and chill. And I think this is what happened with a lot of people, where we were like, oh, this was the second. I mentioned this happened when my dad died. It happened again when I had my daughter. So it's so interesting. The death of my father and the birth of my daughter are what led me on this journey, on this path. And I sat with myself again and was like, okay, what am I doing? And I thought about what my friend said. And I said, well, why not? I've always had aspirations to be an entrepreneur and to have my own business, but it was my own fear. It was my own self getting in my own way, because again, it was those feelings, that core limiting belief that I'm still working on to this day, that I'm not enough and that I'm not worthy of whatever blessings and abundance the universe has to throw my way. Right. So I was like, no, why not? I just birthed a human. Right. Why not birth a business? So that's what I did. And again, I tapped into all the things I have to offer, and I created this coaching business. And the cosmic catalyst piece is that I help women spark their inspiration. I use creative means. So I've worked with singers and dancers and actors and writers. So I use exercises with my clients in that way. I've worked with other fellow mamas who are trying to find themselves again, because now I understand when you become a mom, and Jasmine, sometimes you lose yourself in your mothering. And I want to not just be a mom. I want to be a role model for my daughter and for any future kids that we may have. So
for sure.
So that's just it, right? It was this time where I could slow down and visualize and create and plan for what I want to be and how I can help these other women that are feeling stuck, who are feeling a certain way like I was back then, get back in that realignment. Because, I am a creative. I love to sing. I do theater, but I also, and it might be the Capricorn rising in my chart, I am a planner and I'm organized. So I take these esoteric things, these like woo-woo, if you want to call it that, things like astrology and whatnot, and I bring it down to a practical, tangible level, because I'm telling you, when I've done it for myself, it has been transformative. And that's what brings me to chat with you and the folks listening today. So
for sure. I was going to actually hit on some of the things about mine. So I mentioned before, I did do your quiz, and it came out as dancer. And then I was looking at some of the things, like I am completely novice. And I think you even mentioned in one of your podcasts that some people are just like hung up on that one sign because of their birthday month. Yeah. And me being a Sagittarius, I know, there's that, like you say, you have moon rising and all that. I have no clue where to begin on any of that. So can you break it down to mine specifically? Because I think you might have mine in front of you, all the answers that I have. I'm not sure if you can pull it. We can pause, because I just wonder if that would be like an example that we could use for the conversation.
Sure. I mean, I can also very quickly, if we take a pause, I can pull up your astrology chart right now this second. If you know your birth date, time, and year. And location. Okay.
Well, yeah. I know all of that.
Except definitely use you as an example.
Yeah. I believe there was the time is always the one that I always get wrong. And I think I think it's like 8:32 p.m. But I was born December 11th. I was born in Okinawa, Japan. So the Ryukyu Islands. So I feel like I'm like, Asian sister, what's up? It's getting
right. So when it comes to astrology, there are many different things that you can take a look at, but the big three, the trifecta that a lot of people talk about when you're first starting out, are your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. Mm-hmm. So your sun sign is where the sun was in the moment of your birth. And actually, let me take a step back even from that. Okay. So your natal chart in astrology is essentially a snapshot of the heavens, of the sky, in the exact moment that you were born, that you were on this planet. And so there are different planets that are in a specific place, in a spot, and that's what makes up your astrological chart. So your sun sign is what people most commonly refer to as their zodiac sign, their horoscope, right? So when you read the horoscopes online or in the news, or do people read newspapers?
Digital articles, yes.
On social media, your CoStar app, whatever. So that's the sun sign. That is how you're showing up in the world. This is your archetype, your embodiment. And so as we've already talked about, you are a Sagittarius sun. So Sagittarians, I love my Sag friends. Y'all are explorers, adventurers, love to travel, love to absorb knowledge. So they're always learning things, always moving, always going from one thing, going from one thing to the next, a lot of energy. So Sagittarians are super fun. Your moon sign is the side of you that actually not a lot of people get to see. Mm-hmm. So it is the most intimate side of you. So it's significant others, really close friends, family that may get to see that moon side, but the moon represents stability. It's how you feel safe. It's essentially the home, right? It's how you feel safe, secure at home with yourself. And according to your chart, you are a Capricorn moon, which is very interesting. So I have Capricorn, as I mentioned in my chart. Capricorns are ambitious. They're hustlers. They are always, it's that mountain goat. So always like pop, 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 pop on the mountain. So you feel, Jasmine, super safe, secure when you are like working to go to the next thing. You are moving forward, and just based on your story, right? You're moving forward with your career. You're finding new things to do. Capricorns make really good managers, leaders, project managers, right? So they always got something going on. They're very hardworking and driven. So that's Capricorn. And then your rising sign rising signs are the first impressions. So when we first meet each other, it's how we see each other. It's, some astrologers call it the mask, right? So it's how you show yourself to other people before they really get to know you. Mm-hmm. And I think this resonates. Your rising sign is Cancer. So Cancers it's a very maternal energy. It's sensitive, very emotional. But, again, I'm a Pisces, so emotions don't scare me, or I don't think emotions are a bad thing. Mm-hmm. So very nurturing, very loving, a lot of care, right? So I just before we started recording, you were telling me, or as we're recording, you were saying that your offering with this podcast is to shine a light on these wonderful guests that you bring on. So in and of itself, that Cancer rising is showing up in this podcast, right? Because you are providing a platform, a stage, a container, a space for us as business owners, entrepreneurs, BIPOC folks to have a place to be and share our stories. So I guess the Cliff Notes.
Yeah. Cliff Note version of it. And it's, I think if you want to throw that wrench in the sprocket, I'm also an introvert. I do a lot of extrovert jobs, but all in all, I'm a serious introvert. I'm like the wallflower in the party. I just don't get involved. I observe the environment before I kind of like might strike a conversation with somebody if I feel comfortable enough to do that. So it's just, then I also, and I know maybe this question has ever been addressed, but there was a test that I did.
Is it Myers-Briggs?
Yes. Do you follow that, or do you deal with that?
Yeah. I am an ENFJ.
Okay, I'm an INFP or
INTP?
TP? No, I don't. Yeah, I think I'm kind of like in between there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very interesting to know about that. So that kind of rolls into the answers to the quiz as a dancer, correct? I think there was something on there that was what you were getting that information from.
Yeah. So the quiz, it's totally free. It's on my website. It ties into my ideal client, my audience that I hope to engage with my coaching. It's these women who feel that they're stuck. They're kind of like, I'm in this transition phase, or I'm feeling like I'm not fulfilled. Again, as I mentioned, how I felt when I decided to walk away from academia. And there's these different archetypes, and I call it the inner Muse archetype quiz, because that ties into the model that I created for my coaching clients, MUSE. So it's model, understand, structure, expand. And it's this archetype, this inner Muse, this goddess that's within us. And I'm sure you would appreciate the Muse metaphor, right? Because as a creative, as a musician, we have these muses that are within us and come to us when we want to be our higher selves. And so you mentioned, you came as the dancer, and what these archetypes represent are these figures, these women that they have these gifts and talents, but something is getting in the way, right? As I mentioned, there's limiting beliefs, or there's external pressures, perfectionism, people pleasing, XYZ. And the dancer archetype is, it actually is that Capricorn moon, Jasmine. It's you're just so good. You make it work no matter what, right? Yeah. You can be, and also the Sagittarius, right? You love being in different places at once. You have that heart of service, that Cancer rising. You are here to serve and to pour into others. But for the Dancer archetype, sometimes it comes with the cost of losing yourself, of not having time and space to engage in self-care, in juggling all of these different roles, these different hats as we wear as women, that you don't really even know who the OG was, right? It's like, wait, hold on a second. I've been spinning all these different plates in the air or whatever, on the sticks, whatever that visual is. That's something I don't even know what the first plate was or who I am anymore. So that it's just a way to connect with people interested in my offerings as a first foray into the work that I do. And so through that quiz, building exercises, building content, community to help you through the plan, through the model that I spoke to, get you to find that Muse in her goodness and glory.
That is so wonderful. And all the listeners, I strongly suggest to go onto her website. I mean, if you guys want to know more about that, it would be www.rowenawinkler.com. But I also noticed that we're talking about dancing and stuff like that. You are a ballroom dancer. Now that's pretty cool. I'm not a D&D person. I've heard a lot about that, like the Dungeons and Dragons. I've heard people go like to conferences and seminars and meetings and a bookstore, stuff like that. But I've gone to Comic-Con. I'm a comic book. So in a correlation, I'm a kind of a nerd in that aspect. But love it. But the ballroom dancing, like, you got, I don't know, I might have to take you on for the second episode down the road, but we got so much to talk about. I just love to even connect with someone who has so much love for everything. And you decided to just follow that path and let it lead you down to such wondrous opportunities and things, and meeting people that are who are needing you. And it's just beautiful. I love it. So
I do want to touch on the ballroom aspect.
Yes. Tell me more about this ballroom.
Because I tell people, first of all, that I would not have gotten my PhD without ballroom. I am indebted to ballroom dancing because I found ballroom when I was in my PhD program at the University of Maryland, and I needed a way to de-stress and to detach from writing a 300 plus page document.
Oh my gosh.
And that was ballroom. I found ballroom, and it also super profound because that's how I met my husband. He's an alumni of UMD, and he was very involved with the community. He taught a lot of the classes, and he was my best friend for years before we decided to date and fell in love and got married. And it's awesome because, as we talked about, Filipinos love to dance. And so I spent many years as a child watching my parents dance, watching all the family friends dancing at the parties, and thinking, oh man, I would love to have a husband someday that would dance with me. And lo and behold, there he is. Derek Winkler is awesome because he's an amazing dancer, and we have a lot of fun.
You just found a diamond in a rough. Cumbia, cha-cha, salsa, merengue, all of that, Afro-Caribbean dancing and all that. And I was like, I could never find a dance partner because they were always like holding up the wall with their Corona. I just can't do that. But why did you, one of the things because there's so many beautiful dances out there, what made you choose ballroom specifically? Was that the only thing that was available? Or?
So as I mentioned, I'm a theater performer, but when I was in grad school, I couldn't perform in musical. I didn't musical theater. So I couldn't perform in shows because it's just such a huge time commitment to be a part of a musical. And I just didn't have the time trying to get my master's and PhD to do it. And so I was very sad. I missed performing, and a really good friend of mine said, oh, hey, they're offering free ballroom classes at this gym at the university. Do you want to check them out? And I've watched, this is when Dancing with the Stars was really popular, right? So I would watch Dancing with the Stars and be like, oh, that looks really fun. I think I'd be into that. And so, yeah, I joined and got obsessed. And, you know, my husband is definitely more into like the waltz and the foxtrot, but girl, I'm with you. I love cha-cha. I love salsa dancing. I'm definitely more of the Latin dances. Yes. They're cheeky and flirty and fun. And so I've been very fortunate to learn a wide variety of different dances, and it's really fun. It's great.
Yeah, and it's even interesting because if you chose to some other dance, you would have never met this is like the path that you were supposed to go. You would have never met your husband.
I know. Right.
But it's even though outside of everything else, it's just such a beautiful way that you're connecting with the culture and embracing all. Then on top of that, it's almost like you get like a win-win. You get a wonderful man who is a dancer. Like, you do know me, people who are probably like, we're still looking for that, you know. I am so happy that you have found such blessings in your journey. So based that we're both mothers, but it could be something completely different. What is the sound you love the most?
You definitely know what I'm going to say. It's my daughter's laugh. It's hearing my baby just be so happy, and especially, and actually what's probably even what I love the most is hearing my husband with my daughter. And you know, tickling her or messing around with, you know, like doing peekaboo with her and whatnot, and hearing him, you know, roar, and then hearing her just crack up. It just warms my heart. I don't know. There's just something so attractive about dads with babies. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so nice to see, because it's just beautiful. And I will say I am so privileged and I'm so blessed that I do have a partner and someone in my life who really steps into that father figure role so beautifully and powerfully. And it is so natural. I remember when Derek and I were just dating, we weren't even engaged yet. We went to a party and one of the friends there had a little baby, and he was holding this baby and interacting with the baby. And we got in the car and I said, look, listen, it doesn't even have to be me, but you need to be a father someday. I told her right then and there, I was like, this is just so natural for you. And now that I get to witness it with COVID again, we were able to have more time with each other than we probably would have ever anticipated, since he was able to take more time off too. It's just been such a blessing during this very interesting and weird time.
Yes, it's such a this listening to it is such a beautiful. I am so happy for you. I'm just like overjoyed with all the things that are coming to you as a blessing. It's such a beautiful journey that you have. I want the listeners to get to know more about you. Do you have any information on how they can contact you specifically?
Yeah, sure. So like you said, you can go to rowenawinkler.com and you'll find all of my information there, ways to find me. I also am on Instagram. If you would rather follow me there, it is RB Winkler, PhD. And that information is on my website as well. But yeah, I'd love to connect with you, learn from all of you. We are in community and we're all just trying to be our best selves, y'all, and trying to make it work. So I'd love to hear if this episode has resonated with you and if there's anything that I can do to support your journey, because as we've chatted about today, when you finally feel that you're in that flow of where you're meant to go, it's pretty freaking awesome.
It is. And you're proof. So this is beautiful. I love it.
Something that I've found recently, especially as I've been building my business, is what makes you different makes you powerful. I feel that for so many of us, and myself included, for so long, we're looking around, comparing ourselves to everybody else or trying to be somebody else or having aspirations to be these people that we are not. But it's not until we truly take a moment to reflect on who we are and our gifts, what makes us beautiful, what makes us special, and tapping into that and having that intuition of knowing what's right for you and knowing who you are and who you are meant to be is so profound. So don't get lost in all of the distractions, right? That there's just so many things that at the end of the day don't even really matter. You know, like as I mentioned with my dad dying and now with my daughter being born and now with the collective retreat of COVID, it's this lesson that you never know what's going to happen. So you might as well just stop caring about what other people think and do you, man. Just be yourself, be that vibrant, amazing, luminant, radiant, wondrous human that you are. Because people will see that and feel that, you know, when it's contrived, we all can feel it. Like it feels fake. But when you show up unapologetically and authentically, y'all, it's amazing and it's transformative and it's a game changer. And I'm living proof of that, as you mentioned.
Oh, yes. 1000%. I confirm on that. This is such a beautiful, I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for this time.
Thank you.
It's been an awesome, we're on this journey here. So it's been an awesome time to meet with you at the right time, of course. So
it's been really beautiful, Jasmine. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. So you have a wonderful rest of the weekend and I will stay in touch with you, dear.
Please. I want to hang out with you now. Where are you located?
I live in Greenville, Texas, which is like,
okay.
50 miles northeast of Dallas. So
gotcha. I really enjoyed this conversation. It just felt like you mentioned we were like old friends. So
yeah.
I would love to stay in touch and to hopefully, maybe in the future collaborate or do whatever. You're stuck with me now. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I will talk to you later then. Have a wonderful weekend and kiss that baby girl from me.
Oh, I will. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. You too. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you for listening to Noise Paloo Zion podcast. I'm Jasmine Castillo, also known as DJ Jim Jam. If you are wanting to be promoted on my podcast, please reach out to me if you are a small business, entrepreneur, musician, or artist. www.jasminecastillovoice.com. Stay tuned for the next upcoming episode.